The Spy Who Came In From the Cold is only moderately successful as a thriller, but it is enormously compelling as drama. Yes, there's a fair amount of suspense generated by the double and triple crosses built into the plot, but that's not what holds our attention. Rather, it is the story of a middle-aged man's disintegration and eventual redemption. I first saw this movie in 1966 during the height of the 60s spy craze, and I never forgot it. At that time, I, along with my brother Eddie and sometimes our cousin Anthony, were checking out every movie theater between Washington Heights and Tremont Avenue, an area of the Bronx that we had just moved into. Big or small, we hit them all. Despite its title, the Art Theater was not an art house movie theater. I later discovered that title belonged to the Ascot Theater up on the Grand Concourse. But I saw more great movies at the Art than I ever did at the Ascot. I was also becoming more interested in Richard Burton as I remembered the commotion his Broadway-bound Hamlet had caused. He and Elizabeth Taylor had just gone through La Scandale, and their arrival was not unlike the Beatles coming to town. It was my first Hamlet, thanks to a special televised performance on Channel 13, our PBS station. On a more personal note, family lore has it that our dad proposed to our mom in the balcony of the Art Theater. But many, many years later, the balcony of the Art Theater was turned into a massive air conditioning unit. So during the summer months, bringing a sweater or a windbreaker was a wise thing to do. Set during the Cold War, Richard Burton plays Alec Lemus, the head of Berlin Station. One of his agents is killed at the infamous Checkpoint Charlie as he tries to cross over from East Berlin. After the agent he's running is killed, Burton is recalled to London, fully expecting to be put to pasture. But the head of British intelligence has something else in mind. He wants Lemus to stay out in the cold just a little bit longer. He wants Lemus to go to seed, to drink, but not to the point of drunkenness, not to the point of insensibility. His seeming downfall is the first move in an elaborate plot by British intelligence to destroy an enemy agent. But it's all a front, and not just to the other side, but to the audience as well, as we come to see that the spiritual malaise of the character is all too real. Nevertheless, he accepts what he knows will be his last assignment, but not for king and country, but for revenge. The East German agent he sent out to destroy is responsible for the death of many Western agents. And so Lemus goes to seed. He wanders around the streets of London in an alcoholic daze. Eventually, he lands a job in a small private library where he meets Claire Bloom, who is simply great in a small but pivotal role as a naive member of the British Communist Party. They soon fall in love, but Lemus still has a cover to maintain, and he does so by beating up a local grocer played by Bernard Lee, who is most famous for playing M in the James Bond films. Lemus is arrested and thrown in jail, but Claire Bloom is there to meet him when he's released. When Burton has finally reached rock bottom, he is approached by a number of agents working in Britain and persuaded to defect to East Germany. Richard Burton gives one of the finest performances of his career. The casting of Burton, also famous for his heavy drinking, may seem like a wicked, dual-edged joke, but he attacks the role without an ounce of self-pity, an iron-willed restraint. Midway through the film, there is a great moment when Burton, looking out across a gray seascape, realizes with a sudden shock what his ultimate destiny will be. It's all there in the eyes. Once there, he's interrogated by Oskar Werner, the East German agent responsible for his debriefing. And his scenes with Burton are one of the highlights of the film. We feel like we're eavesdropping on two brilliant technicians as they discuss their respective jobs. One is world-weary and cynical to a fault, while the other is still a true believer. The film was directed by Martin Ritt, who, along with Sidney Lumet and John Frankenheimer, was one of my favorite directors. Faithfully adapted from Jean Le Carré's breakthrough novel, this is much more than a spy story. It's about the way people lived during the Cold War and the utter insanity and waste of life of people caught up in one cause or another and double-crossed by them. But in the end, the only one who won't be double-crossed is the viewer. See you around the campus.